Join us on the 8th Pan-African Pyramid Global Awards 2025 and 11th Anniversary Bonfire Dinner, recognizing and awarding Pan-Africanists who selflessly fought and defended the rights and freedoms of the black race globally on 30th August 2025 at Fair Hotel from 2 p.m. Dress code, strictly pub t-shirts or traditional stroke African wear. Theme, One Africa, One Passport. United States of Africa, USA. Book your dinner card now. Table for 8, 3 million. Platinum, 1 million. Gold, 500K. Silver, 400K. Bronze, 150K. Call 0757 342317 or 0782 342317 to book your dinner card online now. Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. I am because we are. Come, let's rekindle our roots. Africa, don't agonize, organize. Powered by Fairway Hotel, NBS TV, Afro Mobile, Lupa Radio Foundation, JJK, The Spy Uganda, Detective UG.
I just want to bring the story of Agatha. I read the story of Agatha. Agatha is a black, 1 minute, is a black woman in Alabama in the US, right? She is currently in jail for, and I will explain to you why. She's in jail because she's black. She's a black woman and she has been put in jail because of that. What my colleague is talking about is called racial capitalism. And I just want to highlight racial capitalism, how is it made? Because it's not public, it's not big labels, it's not hashtags, you know, they don't do the communication and the PR around it, but it is real.
Basing on history, I remember after the Weimar Republic collapsing in Germany.
After the
Weimar Republic, yes, in Germany. According to the book called The Grapes of Wrath.
The Grapes of Wrath.
Yes. It said that Germany experienced a lot of problems, unemployment, high cost of living, and so many others. So what the Germans did, they blamed other people, the foreigners, for their problem. And they said that our problem is somebody else's fault.
Not us.
Somebody else's fault.
Others, not us.
Yes. So they blame the Israelites, the Gypsies, the Rome, and the others. So just because of the weakness of the Weimar Republic.
Go of illegal migrants, saying if you're not an American, don't stay in America. He's sending non-Africans into Africa. Yeah. You want to clean your house. You're saying this is a rapist. Let him go to Uganda. But he's not even a Ugandan. He's not a Ugandan. You're saying you are a rapist. Yes, you go to Uganda. Uganda doesn't say, okay, go to Eswatini. If Eswatini refuses, go to South Sudan. This is not any of those countries. However, the reason we are chasing him is that he's illegal in America. Number two, he's a criminal. There is this man, this is called Obredo
Garcia.
Obredo has even been picked from prison
to go straight to Uganda.
Can you imagine? So the people you don't like in your country, it's okay, they can say, well, are we a prison? Africa is a prison of America. Like they have made this in Cuba. Cuba, what's that?
Guantanamo Bay.
Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
So the entire Africa is Guantanamo Bay of America.
Free your mind now. Be part of the People's Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Welcome to yet another edition of the Pan-African Weekly Roundup with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe. And this morning, my panel is less by one. Our comrade, senior elder, comrade Alenyo, Judge William, is missing on the panel. Nevertheless, we have a new face here coming back from South Africa. Comrade Lesaffre Thomas, say hi to Amanla. Comrade Lesaffre Thomas is right here with us, fresh from South Africa, where he has been for the last, I think, close to a month. Welcome, comrade. He had been on a Pan-African mission, and he will be giving us a few of those things that he thinks need to be talked about in the Pan-African context. And right after him is comrade, the Walking Encyclopedia. That one is my name, I gave it to him. The Walking Encyclopedia, comrade Castle Samuel, the philosopher. Say hi to the viewers, comrade.
Yes, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. So it's a very great pleasure.
I saw Rugarama was beginning to correct you. That is the morning.
In the US, it's night almost. So they may be watching us at around that time.
Are you saying USA are in the dark?
In the dark.
Very in the dark.
Yes.
And very finally, our comrade Daniel Rugarama Karuchiko. Daniel Rugarama last Monday was also unable to join us. He's a lawyer. Sometimes he's fighting for the people's rights in courts of Uganda. And I remember last Monday he told me he was in Mukono court and he could not make it. Nevertheless, Comrade Karuchiko, you can say hi to our viewers.
Salutations to all you, our esteemed viewers, and indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, I take cognizance of the fact that we live in different time zones, so I join issues with my younger brother, Kasozi.
And if we were in the court, they would say in the watching brief, you know that, you since you're a lawyer.
I do.
The watching brief is Comrade Tabu Ogwal. Comrade Tabu Ogwal is
just in case
on the watch brief. Let me give you each one of you 2 minutes. Apart from the topics that we're going to discuss, any other that could have caught your attention, especially you, who is who has just left the plane right now.
Just for me, just in 2 minutes, coming back from South Africa, you have a lot of interesting debates happening that side. A lot of them are Pan-African in nature, and a lot of them are also like deeply entrenched in the toxicity of what democracy has become nowadays, right? Where when you have money, you can bring like topics on the public and hidden the truth. So South Africa right now is experiencing once again a xenophobic moment, where its leadership is unable to sort out the problem of its people, and therefore point out to the scapegoats, which are the foreigners, right? And it goes deeper and deeper in society, and it convinces more and more South African voters. And it's very interesting because South Africans, black South Africans, are the ones suffering from the end of apartheid. They are not the white South African. White South Africans have become extremely rich, and they're usually not so xenophobic. The xenophobic are always black South Africans that have been taken within the xenophobic speech of certain leadership that have failed them. So when leadership fails its people, you interpret situations where the people be given a scapegoat, and then they focus on the scapegoat. And this scapegoat is growing because the reality of black South Africans in South Africa is terrible. It is, the reality is that the government has not yet delivered for its people, for its voters, for its consistency. And the people, and the reaction of a fake leadership called Operation Dudula is that we point out...
Operation Dudula.
Operation Dudula. They organize together and they prevent foreigners from having access to public services in South Africa, even though it's according to their own constitutions. So they go as groups of 10 to 15 people at the entrance of hospitals, and they ask for people papers, whatever they have, their papers, the regular papers, and they judge. They become the administration judging who can enter, who cannot enter, even though the constitution says that everyone should have access to healthcare.
Some groups of people stand at the entrance of the hospital
that are being paid by the government. Hidden, it's not clear, it's not open. They paid by the government to organize operations. So we do not speak of what's really happening, which is that a small minority of the South African black bourgeoisie and white bourgeoisie have melted together in order to continue to take the wealth that the workers produce in South Africa and that this land produce. Black workers in South Africa then produce a lot of wealth, and South Africa is getting richer and richer every day, but the workers and the blacks don't have access to that wealth because it's the continuation of colonialism. It's the continuation of colonialism that is happening.
So
and create those
the take home is that there's still xenophobia in South Africa.
It's a classic black on black violence that apartheid used to organize back in the days to make sure that the Xhosa and the Zulu ate each other. They fused those things. Now the government is using the same tactics to say, no, the problem are the Zimbabwean, the problem are the Mozambican, the problem are the Nigerians, not us anymore. They take our jobs. They limit our freedom. And so they divide black on black, and a lot of writers are speaking of Afrophobia. They say this is not xenophobia. And the truth is that when they speak to me, they have no problem with me coming to the country. Most of the time they speak with me really openly, really happily. But when they speak of the black foreigners, the black migrants, then they target it. Which tells you, philosopher, that it is deeply enrooted in the history. Deeply enrooted in the history of the country.
Comrade Lesaffre, you are saying that the Africans, black people in South Africa, who are not South Africans, are at risk more than the whites.
Correct. Correct.
Somebody from from Zimbabwe, somebody from Mozambique, somebody from Nigeria, somebody from Ghana is at risk in South Africa than your skin.
Correct. Correct. And I've been a foreigner in South Africa myself, and also having issue with Home Affairs. So when they come and tell me, because we had conversation in the taxis, in the different space, they come and they tell you, no, what we want, what you don't want is we want documented foreigners, not undocumented foreigners. That's the argument, right? As if undocumented foreigners come to steal the money. And my argument was, I've always been to say, your institution do not work. Your institution do not deliver for the people as we speak. You, Home Affairs, cannot deliver papers for your own people. Not every South African has an ID, not every South African has a passport right now because of the cost. Right? Your department is limited your own people capacity to move, and you ask foreigners to ask legal papers from this department. This is just fueling corruption. This is just fueling corruption because a lot of people pay. They pay Home Affairs and the department's not working. So when you have institutional failure, how can you go and declare like, no, you want foreigners to have papers, but the people that are supposed to give you the papers are not there for that?
Comrade Daniel Rugarama Karuchiko, what caught your attention for the entire last week?
Before my attention is called by any other thing, I am taken extremely aback by the statements being relayed here by our brother whom we had sent to South Africa. That
and
we
this, is
now
exactly
have,
the reason, this is exactly the reason we had sent him to do.
Thank you very much. That
Go and
we
see what
now
is
have
happening there.
renewed.
Because I see Malema talking a lot. People, the entire world is mobilizing around Malema. You know, the entire Africa is saying South Africa is like Mecca, is our Mecca as Africa. But when you go on ground, it's something different.
How do you see the contradiction, Mr. Speaker, is how do you explain a country which not many months ago went to International Criminal Court of Justice to sue the Zionists in Israel for carrying out an equivalent of apartheid on the Palestinians, a country which is miles away from South Africa. And yet, the same people in South Africa are actually carrying out an equivalent or some sorts or against their very own people in the very country we call our very own on the African continent. That sharp contradiction raises so many questions. That therefore the former colonialist, now imperialist, does not have to do much. He has already gotten people, the agents here, who are actually doing his work. Now, that is not something that should be taken lightly. And I think that the Pan-Africanists have got much more work to do than they probably had when they were fighting direct colonialism. Having said that, there is the renewed arrogance of the United States of America, where they get a democratically elected leader of Venezuela, senior comrade, His Excellency Maduro, and they now say they have increased the bounty on his head, that whoever can get him is going to be given 3 times what they had earlier put on his head. And you can imagine that is done.
So we become bounty hunters.
That is done by a country which claims to be the epitome of democracy. What an embarrassment, what a shame. And therefore it calls upon us who believe in the true democracy, who are the Pan-Africanists and anti-fascists at that, to raise up to the occasion and call the White House occupiers by the name which they truly are, that we cannot accept this business of bulldozing, this business of taking the world by for granted, thinking that they are the only guys who think and the others don't think at all, and that they can go ahead and do what they are doing when the entire world is watching. And finally, I take note that majority of the African countries are gearing up for elections, but I want to point out what is happening in Uganda. I see a lot happening in our party, the NRM,
Hey, you are NRM?
Yes, I'm NRM.
I didn't know.
It's not a crime.
No, it's not.
It's not a crime at all. I am NRM.
Comrade, who said it's a crime?
It has been taken in some circles because we are now speaking to the media. I mean, speaking to the world, the world out there. Those who are watching me, you know, it is even the Bible itself. I may have some issues somewhere with the Bible. Says that it is it's not correct for one to light a candle and you cover it with a basket. I am, I mean, after now, for whom would you have lit the candle for? So in the same light, it becomes unfortunate that some of the things which are happening, we just graduated from the primaries. Out of the elective positions of members of parliament, which were about 400, 380 came in form of petitions, meaning that only 20 people, 20 electoral areas were the ones, either there were corrected elections were corrected and done, or the people just felt like if they went to the tribunal, nothing much is going to come. I think it was an indictment. It was an indictment, and I call upon my party to clean up. There is quite a lot to clean up. Although there are other scores that so many people now love the party, they want to come to the party to compete. But if you have that return of grievances almost equaling the number of the electoral areas, then it becomes very unfortunate. And finally, very finally.
Finally, now, very finally.
Finally. There is such a thing in English. There is, now we are in too sick. I also see what is going on in SEC, and I have a feeling that still, even there, we must stick to the rules. If the rules talk about certain procedures being followed, I think it is for purposes of showing the rest of the younger parties, like the NUP and ETC, we are better off sticking to the rules, because that way we shall run a clean campaign.
Thank you very much, Comrade Rugama. Now let's end up with our philosopher here.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, based on what Comrade Lesaffre has presented so far today about South Africa.
Actually, Lesaffre, I will ask you to make a comprehensive report on that, so that we even publish it in our outlets. You need to make what you have found out, so that we start a campaign on that.
So about xenophobia, he has consistently talked about failure by the government to provide essential service, which is correct. Based on history, I remember after the Weimar Republic collapsing in Germany.
After the
Weimar Republic, yes, in Germany. According to the book called The Grapes of Wrath.
The Grapes of Wrath.
Yes, it said that Germany experienced a lot of problems, unemployment, high cost of living, and so many others. So what the Germans used, what the Germans did, they blamed other people, the foreigners, for their problem. And they say that our problem is somebody else's fault.
Not us.
Somebody else's fault.
Others, not us.
Yes. So they blame the Israelites, the Gypsies, the Rome, and the others. So just because of the weakness of the Weimar Republic under President Hindenburg. So because of the weakness of the government, that's where the roots of xenophobia starts from. So South Africa, under the current leadership, they failed to deliver. That's why they ended up into a coalition government, because of those weaknesses. So the South Africans have now resorted to scapegoating, blaming other people, which is wrong, because based on our history, South Africans were here in Uganda, very many countries, the frontline states, they helped them a lot in winning their independence. And they always say that a society that does not honor its hero is not worth dying for. So how have you paid those people who died for your independence? That's a very wrong decision and a very wrong mentality. So there is no way how we can form an integration when you people in South Africa, you cannot honor other people. So that's a very bad, and the government should style up and should implement policies so as to solve some of those problems. Then another thing I would like to talk about is about the Chagos Island. Mauritius. Recently, it was yesterday, they signed a deal returning back that island to Mauritius from UK. UK, yes. So even Papa Leo the 14th was very happy with that because Britain had taken that island for almost a century.
Yeah.
So now they have returned it, though they remained with control of some of other islands like Diego Garcia and the other. But it's good that Africans have managed to demand their territory and to demand their rights. So it's now back to Mauritius. So that's a very good news to me.
Very good. Thank you so much.
But if I can I just, we have to be concerned as Pan-African that the island is not sold to Americans. Because I've heard there's American interest in those islands to establish their military base, extend their military base.
Okay, they remained with one Diego Garcia where you can always have. At least we have got the biggest part, all the men of the island, so they have remained.
So they still have one island.
Yes.
Americans still have one island on which they organize all the imperialism in the region from this island. So we should applaud, as you said, the fact that Mauritius have got it back, but also stay concerned about what's happening in the other American islands.
All right. Comrades, is Africa becoming the US's dumping ground of migrants? Is Africa becoming the US's dumping ground of migrants? Uganda is now the latest African country accepting a deal with the US government to take in unwanted migrants from America, signing Eswatini, South Sudan, and Rwanda. That Uganda, President Museveni, whom I have seen positioning himself now as the person replacing Comrade Muammar Gaddafi in Africa, a man who fights for African interests, a Pan-African at that. We even awarded him the other year. We awarded President Museveni last year. Actually, his award was picked by his administrator, Hajatuna Mialo, who's there. She's the one who came and picked the award for President Museveni. And she told me the president received it. So we take him to be a platinum member of Pan-African Pyramid and a senior Pan-African at that. But America has positioned money, nothing else, Comrade Rugaram. They are positioning mad people, crazy people, rapists, and against the names they put the money. That you take this rapist in your country at this much. Eswatini, Rwanda, and South Sudan already accepted. Uganda is now the next country. Uganda is the next country. Comrade, my argument is it will be no problem accepting people into the country, especially Africans. But should America go there, line up only people it doesn't want in its country? Murderers, rapists, mad people. Those are the ones that you say, no, this one send it to Africa. Uganda, you choose what you want from these mad people, choose what you want. And Uganda, I have seen the statement trying to moderate the debate, trying to say, no, we have asked them to give us people who are not criminals. Number two, give us people, not children, that are accompanied. No, you should give us all the people, but who are not criminals. Comrade Rugarama, does Uganda have the capacity to go into the systems of America and say, Rugarama is not a convict? Comrade Samuel Kaso is not a convict. Because if you're saying, send us people who are not criminals, America can wake up and say, this is the list. These are not criminals. But do you have the system to counter that? So they put it there just to manage the debate. But the fact is, America is not sending its best in Africa. It's sending its worst. And America has been positioning itself as the headmaster of human rights. Now, how do you send a person in Uganda and that person is not Ugandan, and you are sending him against his will? Comrade Rugaram, I begin with you.
See, to start with, whether criminal or not criminal, why would an American be coming to Uganda? Is it tourism? Are they coming to tour Queen Elizabeth? They are coming under what arrangement? Are they investors? Is America sending us investors? Because we are lacking investors here.
No.
Are they coming to see Queen Elizabeth, Murchison Falls as tourists?
Negative.
Are we having exchange program? Harvard, Makerere University, they are coming to study.
Negative.
Very right.
The only exchange that let me add. The only exchange I've had from the documentation is that, you know, Trump recently added a 15 tax something. The taxes. Tariff 15.
The tariffs.
So Uganda is trying to bargain on that. That when you bring your mad people, please reduce for us tariffs from 15%. Secondly, America, you know, had put on stringent visa conditions. Visa conditions. Uganda is negotiating on America lessening the conditions on that assignment. That two, one, we want to benefit. Please do not put a lot of restrictions on your visas. Let it remain the way it has been. But secondly, reduce on your tariffs. Then we can allow these mad people.
You see,
that's the only bargain they're having.
Mr. Speaker, let's be very careful here, because we have admitted that America is not intending to send to us students on the exchange program. We have admitted that these are not tourists coming to give us revenue as in the tourism sector. We have admitted that these are not investors who are investing in our energy sector, where we have got a critical gap. They are not investing in real estate. They are not investing in adding value to our minerals. They are not investing in agriculture, so that we cut out the export of raw materials. No. These are people, and I argued the other time, I will still argue, that it is very unfortunate. The entire American community, save for the black community, which black community was taken against their will as slaves, and they built the America as it is, as we know it now. The rest of the people actually are great-grandchildren of the rejects from elsewhere. The last country to be sending rejects to any other part should be United States of America. They came from Britain, they came from France. The grandfather of Trump was born in Germany, and it means therefore that by extension, President Trump is a German. We have got the Maria Careys, the Madonnas, who are from Italy. By extension, therefore, they are Italians. We have got the George Bushes, who were one time the presidents of the United States of America, and they come from Britain, the former so-called Great Britain. By extension, therefore, they are English, and they were not the very best that went to America. And to attest to the fact that they were not the very best, when they went to America, because of their poor background, they ended up killing the original Americans. They wiped them out, and they even derogatorily refer to them as the Red Indians, when they were Native Americans. Now, the Native Americans who are still surviving there are actually marginalized. They are only remembered during campaigns, and you find that a campaigning president goes there and promises them that they are going to be given heaven on earth and that kind of stuff. It is all rhetoric and campaign. At the end of the day, therefore, when we look at our countries, the Swatini you are talking about, the Rwanda, which entered the deal with the UK, United Kingdom, now Uganda, and I hope that, of course, the Irumba, the journalist, has got this on good authority, that we are discussing something that is not just hearsay, but something that has been verified and has been found to be true, that Uganda is entering, or for that matter, has entered the deal with the United States of America to have such an arrangement. Now, having hedged myself against any possibility, I will go ahead to say that there are so many things which Africa has been subjected to, which are actually going to make us, our grandchildren are going to question as to whether we did what we did while we were sleeping or we were seated and rationally thinking through some of these things. I can assure you that when when Barack Obama, the president then, came onto the American politics and became the occupier of the Oval Office, one of the things he achieved was to disturb the spirit of Kwame Nkrumah by making sure that he establishes a military base in Ghana. You can imagine an American military base in Ghana and what it does to the spirit of a man like Kwame Nkrumah. When we had the coming into presidency of Dr. William Samuel Ruto, we had the extension. He was taken to America and he was made to sit in the White House, where the president sits in the Oval Office. He sat in the chair, and these are some of the things, that tokenism, to make you feel great when you actually not that great, so to say, so that they can make you sign all manner and sorts of things. They realized that Kenya is arguably one of, because it is like one-eyed man out of the blind or a short man. You are all dwarfs, but somebody is slightly taller than you. Kenya, as an economy, is arguably the biggest economy on the East African continent. As to who computes that is another thing altogether. But you see, because they made, and this is what they were doing even prior. You remember, they would get a country like Ethiopia, and they say, you Ethiopia, you have got an emperor, not a president. You are not at a level where you should be joining with the rest of the African countries in order to form the United States of Africa. And that is how, for instance, the emperor of Ethiopia and the headquarters of African Union ended up in Addis Ababa, because they were trying, Kwame Nkrumah, in his wisdom, was trying to persuade the emperor, who had been persuaded by the colonialists that he is above the rest.
He's an emperor.
No, we can have the headquarters even in Addis Ababa. It was like a compromise. Otherwise, Central African Republic was supposed to be hosting the headquarters of the African Union. It was most preferred. But the point I'm making really, and this is the saddest moment to us as Africans, that economically, you will find that there is so much Africa has been made to stomach through the policies, the macro policies by International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Why? Because if you do not, as a country, then you are going to be made either to fail in governance, or you will summarily be liquidated, eliminated. That happened. We know history is very clear about what happened to the Patrice Lumumbas of this world, what happened to the Kwame Nkrumahs of this world, what happened to the Amilcar Cabrals of this world, because at the end of the day, they refused to accept what the colonialists at that time in South Africa, because South Africa was accused that it is gearing towards taking the land away from the white man. So the distribution of land and other natural resources, rationalization. So, and that being the case, they said, if that is the case, therefore, we are going to make it impossible for you to be able to govern. And what South African leadership is trying to do is to buy what you would call peace, to buy peace with the superpowers, so that they can stay in leadership. So you will find, therefore, at the end of the day, that Africa does not determine her destiny because we have tried to compromise in order to be seen as good boys. That's the reason as to why we should look far. Cuba has managed to stay under economic sanctions for the last 60 or so years.
64 years.
And they have not died. They are still progressing and doing very well. Venezuela recently said enough is enough. We must make sure that the natural resources of Venezuela benefit the people of Venezuela. For that they are paying, including their head of state, the president, being put on a wanted list. When he is a democratically elected president, when he is the people's choice, but the media, the global media, has continuously projected him as the most undemocratic, the dictator that the world has ever seen. In other words, therefore, the truth of the matter is that the hegemonic empire, the United States of America with her cousins, what they profess as their democratic credentials, which they parade, in actual sense are in no way democratic. These so-called democracies is just a white elephant in the room. They know that they are not democratic and they are trading their power because they have got the military power. They know now they have lost the academic argument. They do not want to engage anybody in an academic argument, whether it is on democratic principles, whether it is on governance, whether it is on economy, whether it is on peace and security. They will always project their military power against their countries they consider to be weak in order for them to achieve what they want to achieve. And that includes also assassinations, which they have carried out. That includes economic sabotage. That includes elimination of the people they deem to be dangerous, such that they can have their way in different countries of this world, rather than having a situation where they involve you in an intellectual argument and then the world decides who actually is telling the truth. Finally, therefore, on that, you will agree with me that we have had this pretense of the so-called superpowers for a very long time. I am glad to report that at least in the area of military might, the so-called superpower called America and what have you has at least got a challenger. When you get Russia combining with China, then you will know that they will check on the power together. They will check on the power of United States of America. We can have some semblance of peace. When you have the arrogance in the economic sphere of America, now you have got the creation of the BRICS. When the BRICS come into force, you know at least the American community will listen, because they have got a force that can project to them that here we are also a force to reckon with. At the end of the day, Africa, there is what we call Kaisaka Same, said that we need to rediscover Africa. Africa is at a point where it has been tried and tested for a very long time. It has in the past overcome. When we were under colonialism, we overcame it, and it didn't come, our independence, regaining of independence didn't come at a silver platter. Africa has been tried economically, it has been tried socially, it has been tried politically. We are at a point, therefore, if we never desired to rediscover ourselves, it is now that we must rediscover ourselves in order to sharpen and determine our destiny.
Thank you very much, Comrade Daniel Galama Karuchiko. The man has finally, very finally, very finally, we have had him conclude his argument. Comrade Lesaffre Thomas, the floor is yours.
Listen, I think our comrade have said a lot, and it is important to remember, because we keep talking about it here, the main rule of imperialism, right? Divide and rule. Divide and rule. We look at South Africa, they divide blacks by taking foreigners, nationals, and fight each other, so we don't look at who is taking the money from the continent, right? We look at the same situations now also happening with the US. The US say, no, we're going to send you some refugees, some migrants, some criminals, I don't know, whatever they label them, as a speaker said, we cannot control if it's true or if it's not true. But it's still a process of divide and rules. Why is America in position to impose that in Uganda? Because I don't think this is a fair trade. I don't think this is two fair partners facing each other, looking at each other.
What is annoying me with these African leaders is that at the very right time, when Trump is trying to fix his country by letting go of illegal migrants, saying if you're not an American, don't stay in America, he's sending non-Africans into Africa. You want to clean your house. You are saying this is a rapist. Let him go to Uganda. But he's not even a Ugandan. He's not a Ugandan. You are saying you are a rapist. Yes, you go to Uganda. Uganda doesn't say, okay, go to Eswatini. If Eswatini, go to South Sudan. This is not any of those countries. However, the reason we are chasing him is that he is illegal in America. Number two, he's a criminal. There is this man. This is called Obredo
Garcia.
Obredo has even been picked from prison
to go straight to Uganda.
Can you imagine? So the people you don't like in your country, it's okay, they can say, well, are we a prison? Africa is a prison of America. Like they have made this in Cuba. Cuba, what's that? Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
So the entire Africa is Guantanamo Bay of America.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
We don't let you go to Uganda. But is he Ugandan? Is he Ugandan? If you feel that these people are not correct to live in your society, how do you think they are correct to live in our society? How? Are we not human beings? So I don't even understand how Museveni Pan-Africa starts even that debate. That you see, we can see if you are bringing people who are not criminals. Is Museveni in the systems of America that he can tell this one is a criminal, this one is not?
No, he can't tell. He can't tell, and that's why I'm saying, like, we need to also understand what has led to that situation. What has led to that situation when we have to accept? Because we have to accept. I don't think.
Why are you saying we have to accept?
I think we have to accept.
Why?
Let me develop my points.
Why are you saying we have to accept?
Because of
What if we refuse? What is the problem?
So I think they have planted the seed of divisions within Uganda, right? And then if we refuse, they will activate the seed of division. Let me explain to you what I think is happening. What I think is happening is that America is strong because of one economic model that leads to a second one. Slavery becoming like the capitalism that we know, right? So they become rich because of that. They become powerful because of what? Black labor from the continent at the first point, right? So why are Americans powerful? Now what do they do here in Uganda? Why do I say like we have to accept? We have to accept because of the democratic paradigm, or I don't know how you want to call it, but the fact that Western institutions impose democracy as a very weak system in order to be able to continue to play within local politics, right? Because when they have guys like Putin or Xi Jinping, they can't do anything. But if Xi Jinping and Putin have to have a real election every 4 years, they can put $200 on the table to say, no, Mr. Thomas, you go there and then you challenge Mr. Putin, we give you money, we give you a lot of advisors and everything, right? So they come to oblige and force countries like Uganda to have a fake democratic system where we have to pretend we are democracy, we have to pretend we are following the rule of liberal democracy as we open to gay sexuality, as we are open to constitutionalism, as we are open to divisions within the country, even if we know it's tribalism, we will call it political divisions, because we receive loans to develop under the very same conditions. So we can't receive any form of loans for development of this country without those applying those rules, right? And so we are in a situation where we are going to elections. We are going to election, and the president knows exactly how like his enemies can melt in the business of Uganda. And in order to make sure that Uganda stays stable, he has to play with those enemies and mitigate them, manage them. I don't know exactly how, but what we know is that he needs to be the uncontested president by the end of January. And Ugandans will have voted him anyway. But he knows he knows what has happened in other countries. You have seen South Africa, where the ANC has been losing powers to a form of coalitions where you have the most racist of South African politics within the coalition. They call it democracy. They say it's national union. National union with racists that used to it's ridiculous. That used to enslave people. It's ridiculous, right? So the system has imposed weak democracy on African continent. And those people like Bobby Wine and Sizwe in South Africa that think that Africa will develop with this type of fake democracy are wrong. This is not happening. There is no development under those fake like neoliberal democracy where everyone can come, put money on the table and create an opposition. They've done it in Madagascar, they've done it in Kenya, they've done it in Egypt, they've done it in South Africa, they will continue to do it. They haven't done it in France. They destabilize elections. Elections are the most simplest things to destabilize today with social media and AI. It costs really little money, right? So President Museveni knows the situation that by opening an election, he allows he's weakening his own political system of development for Uganda. There were no such things under the Kabaka and traditional rules here.
In fact, they are doing it timely that Uganda is going into an election.
Exactly.
It has to do with timely that they are going into an election. You refuse, and then we give Bob Wine money.
Exactly. And if they were trying to do that in February of next year or March of next year, the president will say, no, thank you, you guys can keep your criminals. Like but because he knows the power of division, the power of destabilization, that this power carries, America carries the capacity to destabilize an election, to organize a coup, to reorganize your secret service. I will take 5 minutes at the end of the show to also explain to you how French colonialism is reorganizing in Africa in parallel to what we
French?
Yeah, I've made some terrible discoveries. But so what I'm trying to say is that we have the house that is already weakened, and so those guys can enter the door and dictate what they want to do for a small period. For the small period of the elections. And that's also why you won't hear President Museveni complaining about the influx of refugees. Any other leader around the world right now with those xenophobic ideas would have said, listen, we have problem in Uganda because of the Congolese, because of the Sudanese, South Sudanese. You never heard Museveni say that. Because he knows he has to welcome them. He welcomed them, and he knows that by welcoming them, the UN, the IMF, the Americans, the usual suspect, Professor, the usual suspect won't be able to tell him anything because he knows he has a power to destabilize and disorganize everything if he decides to stop welcoming refugees and things like that. So he's playing with the actual power brokers in order to maintain and prevent further destabilization within the country. I'm hoping that this stupidity of having American migrants or people that wanted to go to the US to be deported here or in Eswatini will stop as soon as our president is re-elected, and then he doesn't have this type of fragility that democracy orders today.
Thank you very much, Comrade Thomas Lesaffre.
You take 5 minutes for the French, eh? I need to things
I will give you finish it.
Pan-Africans have to speak.
I mean, should I give you the 5 minutes now so that you present at once? Or you
no, maybe after, let's listen to
Comrade Samuel Kasozi, the philosopher.
Yes.
The floor is yours. The next 10 minutes are yours.
Okay, so first of all, let us try to look back and see how US was formed.
How US was formed.
And how painful it was. USA, at first, it's a collection of people from different areas. They used to call themselves the melting pot or the melting place. That whenever you leave your country full of problems, you go to US.
Once you reach in America,
then you
have arrived in the land of opportunity.
Land of opportunity.
Yes. But the melting pot.
Yes. So the whole world was convinced as USA being the melting point. But what happened afterwards? After independence, and after the Constitutional Convention, after forming their constitution, in 1798, they passed the Aliens and Sedition Act. 1789. No, 98. 98. They passed 1798. Yes, they passed the Aliens and Sedition Act, which gave the president extreme power to deport anyone they deem dangerous to the country.
Aliens and what?
Sedition Act.
At the time, it was European that speak Spanish.
Yes.
That they kicked out.
Yes, because they were fearing the
Spanish imperialism.
and even the transfer of ideas from Europe about the French Revolution and others. So they passed those laws so that they can prevent people who they think that they are a threat to USA. So
The Alien and Sedition Acts were a series of 4 laws passed by the Federalist-controlled U.S. Congress in 1798 during the presidency of John Adams. These laws were highly controversial and played a significant role in early American politics, especially in the growing divide between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison.
Yes. So the country which was assumed to be democratic, now it has turned into something else. So I wonder when people are so deeply convinced that USA is a country that is promoting democracy worldwide. That one has gone. That one has completely gone. Let us look at its history. There is what they call the murder in the Holy Land.
Murder in the Holy Land.
USA proved that they have the manifest destiny, that they are the one to show the world what is good and where we should, the direction where we should take. So in 1890, there is that Wounded Knee Creek massacre. Wounded Knee Creek, whereby almost 300 Wounded Knee Creek. Wounded Knee Creek. Creek is just a geographical feature related to water bodies. So there was that massacre where the U.S. Army killed more than 300 Lakota Red Indians.
Hey,
yes,
300
Lakota Red Indians with their leader Bigfoot. And up to now they are using Bigfoot as a mysterious yes, Bigfoot. They used to was a leader of the Red Indians. Yes, so now they are using Bigfoot as a threat to younger children and all Americans as the ghost and war. So they killed those people because of land, and it was called the murder in the Holy Land, a democratic country, USA. So we are trying to show the world that USA is just demystifying itself as a democratic country, yet in reality it's not democratic. Now they are now pushing people out of USA, that they are criminals, they have undocumented stay in the US and so many others. But let us look at where the problem came from. Most of these people, like the Obredo they are talking about, they didn't go there just because of their own will. It was a policy of USA to induce those people to leave their countries to go to USA. For example, when you go to Vietnam, after the fall of Saigon in 1975, when the Viet Cong captured Saigon, USA uplifted several people that had helped its governor and its activities in Vietnam. They took them to USA. Now you say that they are illegal immigrants when you are the one who brought them. They even uplifted. It was one of the jet that was taking about 200 kids, younger kids, to USA, even got an accident, lifting them from Vietnam to USA. Then afterward, you call those people alien or illegal immigrant when you are the one who brought them. There is another person who was called
your assignment.
And after your failure,
yes.
So you like how they did with the Afghanistans when they brought them here, and they are the one who were the bureaucrats in your government. They helped here a lot. Now you took them to your country. Then after changing of governments, you call those people illegal immigrants. So it was a deliberate policy by US in order to further its interest. Now it has backfired. Now they are calling them illegal immigrants. When you look at that O'Brien, he was a gangster. These are
the charges.
Yes, he was a gangster. But it was a US policy to use those gangsters to destabilize governments of Latin America and South America.
Hey, this man was doing an assignment for America.
Most of the gangsters who are there in the USA, they are doing its work there. Remember the Contra scandal. US was sponsoring the Contra scandal against the Sandinistas rebels in Nicaragua. USA was buying cocaine from South America, distributing USA, and get funds you sponsor rebel movement in South America. So USA was dealing with those rebel or those gangsters. Now they went to USA, and afterwards you are calling them illegal immigrants when you are the one who are promoting them. So USA has been doing all those, but the world was oblivious of their evils. That's why USA is the, we can say, the threat of all humanity on this world.
America is a threat to all humanity.
Is a threat to humanity. Based on what they have been
The
doing.
biggest terrorist
Organization.
globally. And the founder of all terrorism organization is United States of America.
Definitely.
We don't have to debate about that.
So,
they know it.
Oh, after all those, you accommodated those people because they were collaborators, they helped you. Now, after changing of governments, they have now started pushing them out, sending them to other countries, which is wrong. If I told you are the one promoting democracy, why can't you rehabilitate those people within your territories? US is bigger than Uganda almost 40 times. Then can't you get somewhere you rehabilitate those people, you remain with them, you used to call yourself the manifest destiny and the meriting place. Why can't you rehabilitate those people within your country?
They call
and
themselves the land of the free.
Yes.
Who? Free who?
Everyone should be free. That's what they used to assume. That they used to say this land was made for you and me. Land of opportunity.
America did one thing. As Africa, and recently Uganda having passed that anti-LGBTQ law, America was saying, give people freedom. Let them do what they want. So for them, they did it there. So people turned into vampires and so on. Now it has failed to maintain its own vampires that it has created. Now it is sending it to Africa. Yet for us, Africa, we've been saying, please, when a child is growing up, there are do's and don'ts, and the parents are in charge. But America is saying, no, if you punish your child, the child has the freedom to go to police and report you. And even they can withdraw that child from you and the government takes over. For us, Africans said, no, our children are our children. We have our do's and don'ts as Africa. America is saying, no, please, do what you want. They have done them the way they want. Now they are afraid to manage their own vampires. Now they are sending their vampires to Africa. Look at the country like Eswatini. Eswatini, a total monarch, absolute monarch, with their own norms, traditional cultures. Then you bring them homosexuals. And you say, please. And very soon now, they are talking to you nicely. After settling those people there, they will start promoting homosexuality through these very criminals. They will start demanding their rights as homosexual in Eswatini. They will start demanding for their human rights, which here in Africa are human wrongs. For them, they will call them human rights. And they want you to, when you don't agree with America, they will now start sponsoring. These are very human beings they have brought here. They will start sponsoring them to cause an upheaval in Eswatini. So why should we accept that?
Okay, so to proceed, I would like to show the world that almost we are at the time when US is losing its hegemony all over the world.
Thank you. Very good.
It's a declining empire.
Yes,
Decline empire.
and most of the empires, when they reach that bliss point, when they're about to collapse, there are so many incidents that expose them to almost...
We call them kicks of a dying horse.
Dying horse. So when the Roman Empire was about to collapse, there were so many instability, and everyone knew that the Roman Empire no longer deserves the mandate to be an empire. So USA, they are now out doing what they used to stand for. Land of opportunity, land of free people, but it's no longer free. So the whole world is witnessing that. That's why very many countries have resisted. Most of those people whom they are sending, their countries of origin refused them. Why? They know US, you were promoting those people that we are not democratic. You were inducing them to leave our country because they are not democratic. Then why are you bringing them back? They refuse. So many countries have started resisting wills of USA. It's losing. It's losing. Then from there, you are forcing them to other countries, third world countries. Which countries have suffered at the hands of the USA? Uganda. They sponsored so many coups in Uganda, destabilizing the country. You go to other countries. USA, in 1971, South Africa and Israel, the apartheid regime, they tested the atomic bomb in South Africa. The Vera atomic, it was a double flash.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter witnessed it, but he refused to talk about it. In South Africa, those are all injustices to our countries. Then from 1960 to 66, Algeria gained independence in 62. 66, France tested atomic bomb in Algeria, and even the radioactive.
These people?
Yes, France.
And I believe that the South African bomb was sponsored by the Israeli. So the Israeli produced a bomb. They couldn't bomb in Middle East, so they went to South Africa to bomb it, to give the technology to apartheid. 50 years after, they come to tell Iran, no, you can't have the bomb. But you gave it to apartheid South Africa.
Definitely. So those are the countries.
So Lesaffre, didn't you have your own country to test your bombs? Why South Africa?
No, you still
Why Algeria?
you can't test it in you can't test it in your own country. You have to test
Algeria.
Why? Let him first answer.
because of the danger for the local population. So if you test the atomic bomb in the center of
Wait a minute. Because of the danger for the local population, you cannot test it in France.
Yes.
So you test it in Algeria.
That's their policy.
And when Algerian kick us out, we went to Pacific to test it in the islands in the Pacific. And
The
until
Bismarck
today, there are
Islands
6
and
people.
what?
Until today, there are 6 people. Yeah,
But Mr. Speaker, didn't you read the Animal Farm?
The Algerian local people
Are not people.
Are not people.
Yes. Didn't you read Animal Farm? All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
You man, we can fight
The
from here.
colonialists.
Anyway, you're not the one.
Okay, so I'm saying that
You're not the one.
those
For
people,
you are one of us.
That atomic
It's okay.
bomb is a problem.
yes, those people have been doing all those atrocities to African countries. Because France, they never wanted to endanger their people.
No, of
They decided to bring them to Agadez in the Sahara, Algeria. They test up to now, people are still suffering with the radioactive effects.
After how many years now?
Until today, there is
66.
radiation in the desert of Algeria.
Even the soil and everywhere contaminated, radioactive
But
contaminated.
even Japan itself, we still have cases. Even
Yes.
in Japan.
45.
Yeah?
But still
The
the effect of
Nagasaki.
atom.
The
Yes, the
Nagasaki and
Nagasaki.
Hiroshima incidences.
Yes, you
We
go to
still
Bismarck
have the
Islands in the
after
Pacific, where US detonated the Castle Bravo bomb. Up to now, they're still facing the problems.
There's no fish in the island where the French like bomb. No more fish around the island. No more fish. Nothing is alive anymore.
So those countries have done a lot of atrocities, which countries have now realized they are no longer dull and dormant. They know, and they have devised different means to deal with those countries. So when US is doing all this, is exposing itself to the entire world that I'm no longer democratic, I'm no longer having the manifest destiny. I used to pretend to convince you that I'm the one who is leading the
world.
Yes, the world.
They have,
and the drive
they
for
have
democracy.
never been democratic. The only difference now is that the higher they climb the tree to demonstrate that they are actually democratic, the more visible their nakedness of the untruthfulness
Has
of
been
their
exposed.
activities is exposed. Africa is a value-led society. That's how we are. That's why we are more accommodative. That's why we are more respecting. That's why we are more. We relate to each other more freely than the rest of the world. I agree with Pierre Lumumba when he says that when you go to Europe, if they are the Den, they are largely Danes or Danish, whatever they want to call themselves. If it is the French, like where my brother comes from, they are largely French. The few Algerians and who went there, and it was justify their assimilation policy, which they never believed in. Because remember, even after the so-called leaving of French West Africa, they left in place pact for continuation of colonialism. You see that deception. To tell you that the Americans, when they went and purported to have purchased the Guantanamo Bay from the Spaniards, they have kept that part of the country, which is in no mistaken terms part of Cuba. What do they do there? They have created a very huge prison. They come, grab people from world over. They grab you if they consider you to be troublesome, and they dump you there. So many innocent souls are falling there. This is the dilemma.
As you wind up.
Which is it? The dilemma is that we have gotten this Africa, where the so-called Americans, who have got no right, by the way, to deport anybody, because the entire America,
It's
as
not
the
even the
White House, should be deport itself to where they came from.
Trump.
You see?
country.
Trump originally comes from where?
German.
And his wife.
From
Slovenia.
Eastern
Slovenia.
Europe around there.
Balkans.
So
They
Trump-
have got no right to
Trump is
deport
not signing
anybody.
papers when he himself
His own wife.
is an alien.
This is the thing. This
And
is
he's
what
full foreigner's wife. I
this
think
is what
he
we
only
are
accepts
saying.
Foreigner's wife.
When Africa accepts the deportees from United States of America, what are they saying? This is what they are saying, that we have not studied the history of America very well. Because America, United States of America, they has got the highest rate of black male incarceration.
Yes.
90%
Yes.
of those incarcerated, black male incarcerated in America, is nothing but racial profiling.
It means they are the biggest criminals.
They
Black
are
American.
they
No,
nothing
no.
negative.
Are they arrested
They
Can somebody
arrest
for being black?
they arrest them mainly because there is a fear that if these males are allowed, they are going to form families. And the families is going to expand the territory of the black community in United States of America. The whites have refused to produce. Their society is declining. The fertility rates of the black is much higher. So their rates of multiplication. And they also realize that when they leave the females will most likely, probably, of course, not have an equal pattern from a fellow African American, as they want to call themselves, and will end up not procreating. So the rate at which the black community is increasing is curtailed deliberately by the racist white community in America, and the people who are going to be deported are the innocent African souls whose grandparents were taken against their will, and they are now going to be brought back to Africa. What a jeopardy.
So let me break it down for our viewer. So what you're saying is the black Americans in America are not necessarily criminals.
No.
But as a means of curtailing their production rate
Yes.
and multiplication rate,
Yes.
they arrest them and detain them so that they curtail their production.
Right,
Absolutely. The productivity must be curtailed because they don't want them to be productive. When you leave an energetic young man, he's going to marry, he's going to provide for. That is why, for instance, we discuss discrimination in employment. It is deliberate that the African American is most likely not to get a job. Not simply because he cannot work, he is going to be labeled lazy. They subjected certain policies in their communities. The housing system in their communities is poor deliberately, so that they can be vagabonds.
The culture.
The crime rate will increase, and they will introduce opium because that is
They
the
allow them
easiest
to take
way.
opium.
Yes, the
When you
easiest
take
way.
opium, they come and arrest you as a criminal.
As a criminal.
Hey.
You see, so at the end of the day, there are these silent but effective, non-pronounced
Techniques.
and documented techniques, as my brother Rotatina calls them, that the white supremacists employ and deploy to paint a picture, and by using their media, that the African American is such a weak, terrible person, to the extent that they will follow a shining example in the black community in America who has succeeded, and they will trap him and show the rest that, after all, you cannot go so far.
Yeah.
You are inherently a weak and criminal-minded person.
When you speak that, I remember PDD, I remember R. Kelly.
There are many examples.
I remember
There's one example.
Michael Jackson. I remember so many.
They killed Michael Jackson so much that even before he finally died, he had died when he converted himself into a white person by changing his color.
I just want to bring the story of Agatha. I read the story
What
of
is
Agatha. Agatha is a black, 1 minute, is a black woman in Alabama in the US, right? She is currently in jail for, and I will explain to you why. She's in jail because she's black. She's a black woman and she has been put in jail because of that. What my colleague is talking about is called racial capitalism. And I just want to highlight racial capitalism, how is it made? Because it's not public, it's not big labels, it's not hashtags, you know, they don't do the communication and the PR around it. But it is real. That woman, right, I've had a husband killed over gang violence, right? So the impoverishment of black community have killed her husband. Now she ended up going to grocery and she struggled to pay. Now the grocery store tell her, listen, we can give you these credit cards. With these credit cards, you can buy at the end of the month for $50 of goods and things like this that you will reimburse us after. Does she has the choice? No, she has no job and the provider of food is dead, right? So she does small job here, some small job there, and then she takes small loans, step by step. Then she realized no one really asked for reimbursement. So she continued to take those small loans. After 1 year, there's the collector that came back and said, no, listen, you have consumed for this amount of money something around like $8,000, $10,000. Really not so big for capitalism. They come to tell her, listen, you have to reimburse $8,000. And then the girl said, no, listen, how am I supposed to reimburse $8,000? And you guys haven't told me anything for 1 year. I didn't even know. I don't understand the rules. I haven't been given the literacy and all of this to understand what is the trap you guys have given me. So now you know what they did. They take her every day to a jail. So now she has to go to jail and sleep in jail until she reimburses the money, right? Now in order to reimburse the money, she has to work plus pay for the jail because the jail is not for free. She has to pay $15 per day at the jail. So now she's in jail.
See that?
$15. So now the jail, the loans escalate. It's become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So what can she do? Now the people are offering her a job. She said, no, listen, you go and you work to that factory, they will pay you. So now that she works for a factory for cheaper price because she's in some of a jail system, right? That is totally legal in the US. With that money, can she reimburse her debt? No, she can't. So you know what she does? And she does what most of the slaves have done. She tried to escape. She tried to escape the jail. Now she was recaptured, put back inside the jail with a bigger penalty to pay. Because now she has to pay for the policeman that came to fetch her back, right? And so all of this escalates to such a point where the debt is impossible to pay, and all her life she has to stay there and work for racial capitalism to continue to make money, because the money she was making was going to white people's hands, and it was really important that the money continue to go to white people's hands, and those people have been lazy in colonialism and neocolonialism. Okay. Agatha is now free. Agatha is now free because Afro-Americans have took her case, have raised it, and there's a lot of law that protect her that she didn't know about, right? So she didn't have to repay the debt and she's now free. But this is how they do it. They will give you a card and say, no, you can spend. And then after they say, no, you have to reimburse your loans. And until you do it, I'm your master.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Lesaffre. Now I will give a minute each one of us. We have really overshot our time. I want us to discuss two things, just 1 minute. One is the African Union wants a new global map standard, arguing that the Makata projection downplays Africa's true size. On the Makata map, Africa appears only slightly larger than Greenland, yet in reality, it's 15 times bigger. The AU is backing the Correct the Map campaign led by Africa, No Filter, and Speak Up Africa. For all the years we've been here, we know that the true map of Africa, the size is not what is being projected on the world map. African Union is asking the very people who intentionally made the African map smaller than the rest to be the ones to correct it. Last week I was with the comrade here, Kasozi. He told me, no, we are continuing with the spirit of crying. Yet our slogan as Pan-Africanism is Africa don't agonize, organize. Russia made its own map. Russia, it's following its own.
They are using their index map. They are not using the Google.
When they felt that they were that what they were doing was not correct for them, they did not go back to ask them to correct. No, they corrected it themselves. Then the point number 2 is on this Saturday. Today is Monday. This Saturday, we'll be having the 8th PAP Global Awards, and the theme is One Africa, One Passport. We want the entire African continent to have one passport, one. For as long as you're an African child, there should be only one passport called either United States of Africa or simply Africa. One passport. Then, for as long as you're an African child, you don't need any visa to visit any part of your home. If I'm in Uganda, I want to go to South Africa, the only cost I should meet is to go there at the airlines company and pay for a ticket. Period. I am going to the other home in South Africa. Likewise, there are countries in Africa here, Lesaffre, where America and British do not pay visas. Here in Africa, you are an American, you are coming to Africa, you don't need a visa, you simply book a ticket and come to Africa. However, Africans are paying visa fees to go to those same countries. Number 2, these 54 African countries, Comrade Daniel Garama, the boundaries were drawn in Berlin conference. African leaders have been crying, please, these boundaries are colonial. They are not natural. Yes, but these same boundaries are the ones that gave them a mandate to start collecting visa fees. That this is Uganda, this is Kenya, this is South Sudan, this is Sudan. So therefore, for as long as you're coming into my territory, you need a visa. So they, on one side, they are crying that these boundaries were drawn by Berlin Conference. They are not ours. However, the dividends of those boundaries, Africans are not willing to let go. And one of the dividends is the visa fees. Visa fees.
Correct.
So passports, each country charges their different costs for the visa, for the passports. If we made one passport, it means we would all have one passport, one charge. If this money is collected, it can be distributed amongst the 54 members. But should be, the processing plant should be one. Then they divide amongst themselves depending on how many people have applied from your side of the not a country, but a state. If you are from the Rwandan state and your king of that chiefdom is called Paul Kagame, we will know how many members from that state of Rwanda applied for visa. That's the money that should be credited to your state. If you're from Uganda, we should be able to know 100 people applied for visa and they have got them, and so this money is going to Uganda as a state, or not as a country. I mean, as a state. So these are the two things we are coming to re-emphasize on Saturday. We must start walking the talk. People are simply speaking United States of Africa, one Africa, but they are not talking about, can we remove these boundaries? If we cannot remove them physically for now, can we remove the charges for visas and passports? So I will ask each one of you to use 2 minutes to discuss on those two. One is the true map of Africa. Who should correct the mistake? The one who made it, or we should make it ourselves, like Russia did? There's another country, he told me.
China.
China corrected their own map. They're not even bothered about whether these people correct it or not. No, they have their own. So we Africans were still crying, depending on these people. Please correct the mistake. No, they did it intentionally. If it was a mistake, we would understand. But this was intentional. Comrade Lesaffre.
I can also be Lesaffre. The African Union. The African Union, I was inquiring from them. What the African Union is actually doing is not simply beg that the Makata people should go ahead and correct the error. They are putting in place a mechanism in collaboration with other well-intentioned people to reshape, to redesign, to put back to the actual size the African map. So that one is something that it is work in progress.
Comrade, you are not mentioning which people are they working with. The well-intentioned. These are the same people who made it.
No, actually they have got the experts from China. There are some experts from China. The Chinese, they have got a very good working relationship with the African Union. Remember, there is a document I told you about Africa.
From China, you see the problem?
No, I called it collaboration. You know, there is no problem with collaborating, by the way.
Yeah,
the problem is imposition.
But Comrade
when
Rugarama,
you impose.
We are 1.2 billion Africans.
Yes.
All of us don't we have, they call them what?
Cartographers.
We don't, 1.2 billion people
scientists
does not have
in that respect. We have.
Hey.
I have got no problem with it.
Hey.
In fact, I would have loved that we do not cooperate with any person at all, and we do our own thing.
Yes.
But nevertheless, now that you see, a friend will always be a friend. If there was a way, and I hope it is there, that we can do some of these things on our own, and there are some that we have done on our own, it would be well and good. But I'm telling you what is happening now. Not that I agree with them or I love it so much, but at least that is what is happening. In an endeavor to correct that error, which has been persisting, because there is a feeling that it can as well stay. I have had those arguments that our map can as well stay the way it is. After all, what will fundamentally change? I disagree with that kind of argument. Whoever is thinking like that is not only mistaken, but is also a danger to the future of Africa. When they paint the picture of the Messiah in the color in which they paint it in various religious denominations, it is to implant in the mind of whoever, be it a Catholic something in Cameroon or where, that actually Jesus Christ is some white person somewhere, and therefore that one will create an impression in a believer that actually the Jesus Christ, the God, is a human, and that God is white. There is a perception you are going to have. Therefore, by creating Africa map in a size much smaller, when in actual sense it is much bigger, is also to create a mental picture in you that Africa is not only inferior in terms of the people, but also the size. Yes. But finally, since that one is now done, you talked about the
one passport, one Africa.
One passport, one Africa. I told you the other time,
you start a second,
and I will tell you this time again, that I am glad that we are recreating. This is like recreating what was done, or attempt was done, was made in 1963. Kwame Nkrumah and colleagues, the Casablanca group, they were talking about one army, they were talking about one passport, they were talking about one government, they were talking about one currency. We are now recreating it, and I'm glad that the debate has not died. Because the saying goes that a problem half talked about is half solved. Let's keep talking about it and doing something about it. If we do not achieve it during our time, at least those who will follow us will achieve it.
Thank you very much, Comrade Lesaffre. Sorry, Comrade Daniel Rugarama.
Lesaffre still will work. So you call him Rugarama now.
Rugarama now. If I'm Rugarama, I will tell you right now. This map is nonsense. No, very quickly also, because I think Comrade Rugarama shows a lot, and you have told a lot. One thing I want to remind people, and I'm doing it also knowing that a philosopher was about to do it, so I'm sorry. I know I'm taking out some of the things here. A map, what is a map? When does map arrive? Okay? So maps were first made by Chinese.
Yes.
They explored the world with the help of Arabs, right? That have discovered mathematics.
That's true.
Now, one man called Marco Polo start to engage with the Chinese a lot and the Middle Easterns.
Italian Seira.
And he stole
the technology of doing map. Because doing map is a technology, right? And as every technology, it has in its core some sort of DNA, right? And what is the DNA of mapping the world? The DNA of mapping the world has been taken by Europeans. And then when they saw what the Chinese has done, they have done more or less nothing with their maps, right? And the Arabs neither. So what did they do? They start to impose maps as a tool to discover the world, as they call it, colonize it and transform it in their own interest. That was called imperialism. There is no imperialism without map. Remember, what did they do when they had the map of Africa? As soon as they had all the cost of the map of Africa, they start to spend a lot of money into trying to go to the heart of Africa, as they call it. The heart of Africa, which really was the source of the Nile by the Speke, by the Lugard, and all those nonsense of colonialists, right? Because they could not dominate Africa without a map of Africa. It was impossible to dominate Africa without a map of Africa, right? So it is really important to understand that those technologies have been developed in order to develop colonialism and imperialism. It's not a technology that Europeans developed thinking, oh, we want to see how we look like as a country. No, it was developed to make people inferior. It was developed to make sure that people see them, they have more information, Europeans have more information about the people that they will colonize, that they will kill, right? And so, when we understand this origin of map, we understand why African Union is saying, no, listen, like we can't stay with that map with a small Africa. All European Union, of the original European Union, enter inside DRC. But now if you look at the map as we have today, France is the same size as DRC. France is same size as DRC. I don't know who's not
France.
France
Yes.
has the same size as DRC.
Very unfortunate.
Really funny. Very funny. Very funny. Physically, there's 7 or 8 times France in Congo, something around those lines. So what I just wanted, the first point is, map is a colonial instrument designed in order to dominate Africa by Europeans, right? And so now that we reclaim our own map, and African Union finally reclaim its own map, I say yes. I say let's show the next generation of African what is the real size of Africa, because that's the real power of Africa. When they come and tell you that they are more powerful and that you need to listen to their advice and everything, it is not true. They have put that inside people's minds, and they have put that inside people's minds not today, not yesterday, not last week Saturday, since 400 years, developing maps that shrink the real size of other people's continents, and that glorified and externalize and make bigger the size of Europe. Who is where? Where is Europe in a map? Is Europe in a corner, left corner? Is Europe in a top corner? No, Europe is exactly at the middle of the globe, which is exactly the position that they want to have at the time of imperialism. They're not on the side, on the periphery of the world. They are the center of the world. And because they are the center of the world, they have to dominate it. And that's what they say when they give you a map that looks like with Europe is in the middle and Africa, so shrink it in there.
Thank you very much. Comrade.
Yeah. Like previously, I talked about this exhaustively, but just for maybe our viewers and for the last remarks, African, we should not always cry as such. Russia solved it, China solved it. So African, just a matter of looking for little fun, to fund the cartograph from Mackay University, Ibadan University, and the others. They can do this. Very simple. Mackay University. Oh, yeah. Our land surveying, all the surveyors.
The land surveyors?
Those are cartographers. They survey the land, they take to Entebbe, they draw the map. What about the map of Africa? What is so... If I told pays you a Chinese in BC drew the map of China, then what about Africa? So just something very simple. And moreover, even if we don't draw a map, there is what we call the azimuth equidistant map, different from Makata, and it's the most accurate. Azimuth equidistant, meaning the distance in Africa is the same as the distance of France and what. So we can use that. It's a map by Bonina, a Persian from Iran. So the European denied that map because it was initiated by a Persian. Yeah. So they never wanted.
And it was being accurate.
Accurate, very accurate. We can use that instead of crying. So Africa, we should always try to be oriented to solving our problems.
Not agonize.
Just very simple. There is no technique. And our Nduguru Garama talked about people who are saying that one is not necessary. Those people are stupid.
They are crazy.
They are very stupid, I can say. drawing the map of Africa doesn't mean to have that picture of the map of Africa. We need to, because those countries like Russia and the others, they have even turned away from GPS, global positioning system. Now they are using GLONASS, global positioning system. They are no longer using the GPS of US. China, they are using Beidou, global positioning system. They can draw their map, they can use their internet, they can find their location using their own network. So Africa, we need also that. For drawing the map, we need to find out the traffic, land use, everything. So it's not only drawing the map, but there are also other affiliated benefits. Land use, minerals, traffic light,
city with your own language.
Yes.
Rename Beijing with a Bantu language.
Just like
What does it look like? New York in African language.
coming with the payment system.
Yes.
The China and the BRICS,
Yes.
they are coming with a payment system that does not correlate with what America controls. That's why they are overcoming the so-called sanctions.
Yes, so people are now resorting to independence of communication infrastructure from Europe and the Western countries. They are using their own internet, Russia. They are using their global positioning system. They are using everything. So why should we rely on those people? We need to draw a map. We need to put in place our global positioning system as Africa. We need to draw our map. We need to find out our minerals, everything, and the locations, and including our local names instead of those people. See?
Perception is everything. When you are perceived as small, you will remain small. When they perceive God, when the intention is to make sure that they project God as white, God will be perceived. Everybody that resembles God will be looked at as God.
Yeah.
Perception is everything. Imagination.
Then lastly, as I'm concluding to African leaders, they usually tell us that a cat that hope to be a lion should give up its appetite for rats. So if I told you
a cat that hopes to become a lion
should give up its appetite for rats. Yes.
Because so you should
eat something.
Yes. That's what Ndugugama has been saying.
A lion doesn't eat rats.
Yes. So if I told you see yourself as a lion, you have to give up what you. So if I told we want to see ourselves as developing and different from or independent from those guys, we should begin thinking as independent and even acting as independent. Yes.
Think large.
Kale, we've come to the end of today's show. Guys, we have overshot our time. But I don't want to be unfair. I want to give you the 3 minutes you asked for at the end of the show to have something to
points.
put about is it France or something?
Yeah, French neocolonialism.
Use 3 minutes, comrade.
Okay, just to bounce back and very quick. We renamed the city of the world after names from here. The French do not call Beijing Beijing. We call it Pekin. We have learned that Beijing is Pekin. The Chinese call Beijing Beijing. The French called it Pekin because they think it's simpler for them. So we renamed the city of the world exactly in your line. What is the name of New York? In a Pan-African perspective, how do we rename New York? How do we rename Riyadh? How do we rename Johannesburg and Cape Town? Like renaming should also be a process of Africa name the city of the world within its own map. We have a map when we name Beijing, I don't know, Beijing or Ukeri. We refine names, so we rename the world, and the world do not name us. Okay. Right?
What did you want to say?
Very importantly, and I'm really happy you gave me that time. It has 3 minutes for 3 news. Let's call it 3 minutes for 3 news, right? Because the problem is French neocolonialism do not sleep, right? So giving 3 minutes even to explain that is complicated. First act was what we've been talking about in this show. French has been pushed back out of the continent by sovereignists, right? By Assimi Goïta, by President Traoré, by President Jani in Nigeria. French has been really contested and pushed back by the youth, by new young Africans, right? And so the militaries have had to leave Mali, Ivory Coast, Chad, Senegal recently, Burkina Faso, of course. And so what we observe is that the French didn't give up on the piece of cake that they had on the continent, right? They didn't give up. They reorganized, right? And I've been studying a bit of that reorganization, and it comes as there's 3 important factors we need to look at. Because at the time where sovereignists build themselves in order to stay stronger against French neocolonialism and neocolonialism in general from other countries as well, at the same time the neocolonialists reorganized so they can have the next move, right? So they can control the next move. So it's important we speak about those things. First, what we have observed is that the head of French Secret Service went on an African mission in 2 countries, Lomé, which is Togo, and Abidjan. Okay? So Ivory Coast and Togo should be seen as the people that still allow in the Sahel and still allow the French to exist within West Africa. It's not the only one. It's not the only one. So in Lomé, you have the situation in Abidjan. What did they do in Abidjan? The president was supposed to finish after 2 mandates. The French allow a third mandate, saying they say no, we allow the mandate. Is the last one, right? For Ouattara last time. And then now, Ouattara is going for a 4th term. Why? They support Ouattara because Ouattara is against the new sovereignist, is against Assimi Goïta, against Captain Traoré, and he disorganized the juntas of the Sahel, right? So they reinvest in him. They reinvest in Ivory Coast. And remember, the president of Ivory Coast is the best man of the previous French president, Nicolas Sarkozy. Best man, eh? Not even, but best man, right? So where are the interests of French being redeployed? We know that Togo and Ivory Coast are definitely there. Now what we know, another news. President Doumbouya, right?
Use the same energy you are using when we are fair. I don't want you to
Doumbouya, he arrived with no one really knew where he come from. He organized a coup d'etat against the president that were not so popular. So the youth thought, this is our liberation, this is our Pan-African leaders. He came Pan-Africanism. Guess what? Doumbouya is a previously French policeman. His wife is a French policeman as well. They both have a house in a compound, in a police compound in France. They own a house. The president of Guinea owns a house within a policeman camp in France as we speak today. And so what do they do? What do they do is that secretly they re-allow French forces to enter Guinea, right? And they allow French forces to enter Guinea so they can organize coups and rebels against Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
Hey.
Right. It is very clear.
That is serious.
It is very clear that Doumbouya, after my research and other, of course, activist comrades from France and from West Africa, it is very clear that the redeployment of the French system within West Africa right now use Ivory Coast and Guinea, right? And within Guinea they have rebels, and they even have what? A new military base. In the north of the country, there's a new airport that have been done in northwest of Guinea, where there is a lot of French plane that can land. But this airport doesn't exist on any map. On any map. We just see the plane coming, up, he's landing, he's going back. Where does he go? He goes to Togo. He goes at the border with Benin also. Because now Benin is also really close to the French, fighting Niger from Benin. So they deploy soldiers in Guinea. They inform them and they move them around Benin, Togo, especially Benin, because Benin is at the border. And from the border of Benin, they redeploy the imperialist tool within Niger itself, right? And if you remember well, Niger has captured also French Secret Service agents that and he told them, those guys have been to a military base in Guinea. We want to know what is happening there. The whole region is asking what is happening in that base. Why is it that there's French planes that come in and out, and then we don't know about those planes? Why is it that those planes don't stop in Abidjan or in Conakry or other international airport? What do they stop here? They stop here because they drop military material for spying and for organizing rebels and rebellions. So
That is very serious.
Yeah, very important. That's why I ask you.
3 weeks ago, there was a coup attempt in Burkina Faso.
In Mali.
In Mali.
They do that all the time, but they fail.
France is trying to use the local people, and of course there are some Burkinabe in France whom they are presenting as people who
They usually do that. They usually do that.
And they've seen what's happening in Senegal, because in Senegal, once again, the people that are against French neocolonialism have been voted in power. So they have they have democratic rights and they are voted in power. And they don't want that to happen in Ivory Coast, because every youth in this continent, especially in West Africa, is aware of French neocolonialism. He knows how Africa needs to gain back its sovereignty in order to develop. They have understood that. But what they don't want is for all those people to go and vote for opposition leaders that say the same things. And in Ivory Coast, you have opposition leaders that say this. You have opposition leaders that have opposed French imperialism, including Laurent Gbagbo, by the way, which want to be a candidate. So what is
he's coming back.
He's back. But the power refused. But Ouattara refused. So they will continue to try to use democracy.
Now because you once colonized.
This thing is very sweet.
No, but
very sweet.
Very important points. Very important points.
How many are you list?
No, it's done. It's done.
Yeah.
It's about those coup d'etat that I will organize in the future.
Very important information.
Very soon we'll be sending back this comrade Lesaffre in South Africa back, but also in
West Africa.
West Africa to go and dig for us more information about the reintroduction.
The reorganization of French imperialism.
Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Irumba Katsabe, your speaker, and this is the Pan-African Pyramid Weekly Round Table. We say Africa, don't agonize.
Organize.
Don't agonize.
Organize.
You guys, you have had enough breakfast. Can I hear you? Africa, don't agonize.
Organize.
Don't agonize.
Organize.
One Africa.
One passport.
One passport.
One Africa.
Thank you so much.
Free your mind now. Be part of the People's Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Join us on the ICE Pan-African Pyramid Global Awards 2025 and 11th Anniversary Bonfire Dinner, recognizing and awarding Pan-Africanists who selflessly fought and defended the rights and freedoms of the black race globally on 30th August 2025 at Fair Hotel from 2 p.m. Dress code, strictly pub t-shirts or traditional stroke African wear. Theme, One Africa, One Passport. United States of Africa, USA. Book your dinner card now. Table for 8, 3 million. Platinum, 1 million. Gold, 500K. Silver, 400K. Bronze, 150K. Call 0757 342317 or 0782 342317 to book your dinner card online now. Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. I am because we are. Come, let's rekindle our roots. Africa, don't agonize, organize. Powered by Fairway Hotel, NBS TV, Afro Mobile, Luparelia Foundation, JJK, The Spy Uganda, Detective UG.